miles a day. And he goes around Detroit, just like it's in the film, picks up garbage, replaces manhole covers, does that for his daily routine. But thank you for mentioning being from Detroit. Now my question is, which I want to engage in this stuff all the time, but you go to events around the city, little parties, social things, and you want to try to make a conversation about these things. I find it challenging, and I would like some advice, encouragement to go forward in all kinds of environments to bring up these conversations.
What's the conversation we want to talk about? Like black and white issues?
I think that's the point.
So I think the first thing is thank you. It is absolutely critical that white people have these conversations in the white groups that they interact with. You will make mistakes. Making mistakes is okay. What you need to embrace is that in this country, we have never ever had an open, honest conversation about race. We pretend we have. We used to say that we were this tossed salad, right? Somehow people come to America and all of a sudden we just toss us all together and we become one. Then we were the melting pot, right? Where we all just kind of blended into one white-like flavor, I guess. But the reality is, as a country, we try to pretend that once we elected Obama, we were post-racial, right? And so we have never, ever had an open, honest conversation about race. And white people can't have that conversation with people of color until they have it with themselves. And so it's important that white people create the opportunities to have those conversations at those cocktail parties, at those faith-based gatherings, at those neighborhood meetings, at those family parties, so that you are having the conversation with the people closest to you. Then and only then are you ready to join a coalition with people of color to actually change what's going on in this society.
To tag on the back of that, I feel like it is very important because, especially for myself, I'm ignorant to a lot of things, especially about the situations and experiences of other people, and I think it's very important for any of us to have any conversation with anyone regarding race or mass incarceration in school. All the things that there's conflict about, I think that it's very important for us to feel out who we're speaking to and understand where they are coming from. Because if we do not, because that's where empathy has, you're talking about empathy and love. To have empathy is to understand that even the person you're trying to educate has had experiences which have led them to believe what it is that they believe. And in order for us to really understand how they think and understand their perspective, in order to even cause a slight shift, which one conversation ain't gonna really do nothing, really, it's gonna have to be a continual battle. We have to sow seeds. And I think that unless we really dig into that dirt and lay some fertilizer down, we're not gonna be able to sow a seed.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm glad you went there. Because here's one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about, and this is sort of what those tie-in, people of Latino descent. One of the things we have to acknowledge about America is that it's such a unique place. It is such a externalization of white supremacy, and it's so covert, but not covert if you're a person of color. But for white people, it's so covert because what we're dealing with is the mentality of settlers, okay? Yeah. And what settlers do is they build fortresses around themselves to protect themselves because they know that they're on land that was stolen.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you know you're on stolen land,
yeah,
you got cameras everywhere. We gotta stop and frisk. We gotta throw motherfuckers in jail. Oh, they got guns? We gotta go and kill those people because they got guns. Because only people that get to have the guns are the settlers. When we talk about immigration today, we're talking about people that this is their land. You know what I mean? This is their land. And when you brought people from Africa to be here, to be the free labor, to build up the riches and the power and the privilege that you have now that's unearned, those people, all of a sudden, those are rebels. These are rebels. They're in rebellion against the settlers that brought them here against their will. So, until white folks get to that real deep level of understanding what they have perpetuated, and again, and I want to say, I love that you bring in this empathy and love stuff, because I come from this place of love as well, okay? And I really, really do, because I'm just trying to be real, you know what I mean? Because I think that's part of the problem, is like we like to dance around. You know, we had a screening where someone kept talking about, well, it's not just about black people, it's about, you know, poor people, and it's about military people, and it's about mentally, you know, folks who are mentally, you know, challenged, and it's about all the, and I said, you're right, but we're talking about black people tonight, right? And I know it's, but the problem is, like, you know, you have to acknowledge that and own that, and that's really, really, really hard, because what that means is it's giving up power, and we're really just talking about power right now. So,
I believe you asked for advice, and my number one advice to you is get uncomfortable. Because race is a very uncomfortable conversation, but it has to happen. They will tell you that the only people that talk about racist is racist.
They are.
Call them out on their bullshit too. Because they'll always bring up that one time they walked through Compton and they were profiled. That's bullshit. So get uncomfortable, man.
Yeah, all that. I would also, don't be discouraged, you know. I'm gonna take this question apart to us people of color as well. There's a lot of us that are ignorant to all this as well. There's a lot of us that have our eyes closed as well. You don't know how many times I've had to confront my own people about their laziness, about how they're waiting for the next Martin Luther King, but they don't want to be the Martin Luther King. Or how they want you to be the MLK, but we don't want you in the streets. Or I'm too busy, I got this and that. Like you said, being uncomfortable, there's a huge difference between the word uncomfortable and radical. It is not radical for me to stand up in here and tell everybody what's happening in the streets. That's just making you guys uncomfortable. Huge difference in that. It's very important that when you discuss this conversation, what's happening outside, you educate yourself. You educate yourself to the fact that when you address not only white people, but also people of color, because you were addressing people of color that have no idea that this is happening, it's very important that what you're saying is factual and that it's true. You don't want to plant the wrong seed and say the wrong things and get somebody radical, and then they go out to make a fool of themselves. A lot of people that come off the PDX don't shoot, but other people marching next to me, whether you're black, white, whatever the color, I listen to what you say. If you're not speaking the same thing we're speaking, or you're not about what we're doing, I kick you off. Now, this is not my movement, but you're representing my life. And I'm not dying because of your ignorance. I'll beat you up first. So, education is a real big thing for me. Education is a real big thing. Talk about how black people, we weren't just slaves, how we were kings and queens. Talk about our inventions, our lifestyles, our culture. America loves the culture, but they don't love the people. It's very important that our people get uplifted, because we have all this tragedy, all these things that happened to us. Yeah, every race has that except for one. But the point is, there's so many good things about our culture, about our colors. The number one thing that I really hate, and I said hate, I don't really hate much. I love a lot of good love. Empathy. What I cannot stand is the idea we are all just one people. We should put behind that you're black and you're white and you're Asian and you're brown. We should just be one. Hell no, bro. I am proud to be black. I'm proud of my blackness. I'm proud that he is brown. I'm proud that he is lighter than me and I'm darker than him. And I'm proud of that stuff. Self-awareness and self-identity is one big thing that Portland does not have. And so when you talk about these discussions to people, bring that up first. Say, are you proud of who you are? When you're white, do you understand your white privilege? Do you know how you can use that in this? Are you proud to be black? Why are you afraid of your color? Why are you afraid of this? Why are you afraid to talk about your hair and your style and your music, the way you walk and talk and breathe? That is the stuff that needs to be talked up first before we get into it. But did you know you were slaves and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so we have to be out of the Clinton by 10 o'clock. So we probably have time for just a few more questions. I would encourage you to please keep your questions short so that the panelists have time to answer and that we have time for other folks that have questions. I won't cut you off. They're trying to do it. They ain't trying to be the aggressive black woman. I'm just saying that we gotta be out by 10. So if you can please give your first name and then your question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucia Z, and I'm really happy to be here this evening. I'm a Quaker minister, and I've been preaching for reparations back east. I did a tour of all the major cities, and I ended up in first in Missouri. And it was a very, very intense experience to see a place where Michael Brown lay, and to be a combined voice with maybe 400 other people yelling out that we need to indict killer cops. So for me, it's really important that we as white Americans really look at not only recognizing that we have white privilege, but that we give it up, and that we use it, or that we use it in a way that's going to promote justice. But I think just like we had to work for abolition back in the day, we need to abolish our privilege by investing in those that we owe. And we have to And I had the great pleasure of studying with James Cone with Black Liberation Theology at Union Theological Seminary. And he wrote a book that's called Become Black with God, and also The Cross and the Lynching Tree. And I think when we start looking at God as Black, that's when we can start this dialogue that makes sense, because that's when we know that we have insulted God by our comfort. And when I heard somebody say here that we have to get uncomfortable, we have to get very uncomfortable. Slavery was built on the white comfort, and we still have a disparity of both today. That one day at a time, I can feel our Creator weep. And if we're not weeping, friends, then we are not truly alive. So I think right now, if we don't get out our walks, if we don't start to pay, then it's not five acres and a goat. I think that we just truly need to give up the land. We need to give up the power. How many wives? My dad had a 4th grade education. When he passed away, he had 4 homes. Because he worked
to her house.
Well, because he was right. Everybody's working hard to feed their kids. So I think at some point we need to understand that unless we lead, the leaders will not follow.
Okay, so we're going to have a good drive. The panelists want to have something? Okay, let's go ahead and make it.
Thanks for letting her comment.
Something else that we hung up for 4.5 hours in the street, or 4.5 hours in front of that idiot Charlie Hales. But he's not here, is he? No.
Neither is Sandini.
But maybe there's another
or Obama.
People who should be here. And if we're going to win this fight, if we've just watched a movie about Ira's post-incarceration life, are we really a community? And where are the ex-felons? Thank you. The sister, I was very glad I waited for the sister to come up and speak to this so that she got to say, been there, done that. And to some extent, y'all put me through it. I'm sure she believes in some individual accountability, and I'm sure she also believes that the system has a fast track to get people there too. And it's especially fast track, not so much for myself, but for people of color, or, but including people who are poor. We're just going to plead with you. Your duty as a citizen is to plea bargain into a shorter prison sentence, not to wait for justice. And so, even though I've probably been in the streets and meetings with y'all, maybe y'all have a few words to say about how we're going to step it up and bring our brothers and sisters who are getting released from OCI and Columbia River into the struggle with us, or listen to them tell us what we need to do better.
Righto.
Charlie!
You guys hold on to that question, because I'll let that be your part of your closing comments. Is that okay? So just hold on to what you just said and then have that be part of your closing
Good job,
comments.
Charles. Proud of you, man.
We're gonna go ahead and move to the next question.
That is great. I was under pressure because I've been on the same business mayor here for years. I remember it was great. He was like, where's our ex-cousin? Oh, that's great. You didn't raise your hand. I did. I couldn't get it. Oh, I totally missed it. I was looking for it.
We wouldn't be here, probably, I don't know what we're doing. He's African American. He's long in the civil justice system for over 30 years. He's now been out 6 months after a 20-year term. He's done 3 years in isolation in prison. What the gentleman said in his film was truth. The truth 10 times more right now than Washington Cross right now. Veterans and ex-felons will be gathered on the street in camaraderie and love. As a mother of African American children who have been profiled many pages on many occasions in their own neighborhoods coming up as children, as soon as my son started looking like adults, they began to be profiled. Within 5 block radius of their own home. You understand what that does to your personal life? You don't know angry and antisocial they can be because of that. And I am frustrated with the white leadership downtown, the mayor, and the people who call themselves new pioneers who moved into our northern neighborhood. When you spoke of the settlers, they're real. They're real. They started watching the neighborhood. Every child in our community became a suspect. Grandma's house, the kitchen concrete became a gang house. This is not all this fabricated stuff. It's real. And it's real in everybody's life, and it hurts. And I want them, those white people downtown, and whoever is profiting from the gang violence, whoever is profiting from the criminal justice system, to remove the traps they have laid for my children and my friends' children, my family's children. Remove the traps.
Go ahead, we're gonna leave it for these last two, and then leave it for the panel for their closing questions or comments.
Real quick, I just want to say, regarding that topic, there are traps out there. One of the first things that needs to be done is the education of your children. Letting them know what traps are out there so they don't fall into this stuff. My mom raised me, since I was old enough to reach over the stove, how to cook, how to do these things. As soon as I was old enough to process anything, the education came right then and there. So that when she said, you are a black male, you are black. This is what black means to you, but then this is what black means to somebody that doesn't know you. And they're gonna look at you this way. Being prepared for these things is the same reason why we go to school, why we go to college, to be prepared for the real world. But my real world is that my black is gonna be the threat of society. It's very important that these talks are discussed. I don't care how young your children are, get them started now, so that when they do get to that age that they're gonna get profiled, they're already ready. They know what to do. So then these traps don't phase them.
Okay, your partner, question.
My name is Erica, and I do have a question. I hope you guys can answer. Just real quick first, don't you PDX actually work directly with police officers here? I don't know if I does. With police. Okay. Okay. Well, I have a more in-depth question, but I just wanted to know yes or no. So no, not directly with police, right? Okay. So my question is, what I found is and from watching this video, my question is that one of the biggest problems that I saw from this is that police officers, in Portland, all across the country, and racially profiled. It's a major problem. It's the racism that exists in the police department all across the country. Obviously, right? So, for I think a lot of people, and this is why I asked if you work with the police, because so often racism comes when you've not been exposed getting across. And I know when I grew up in a small town, there were two black people in my school. We never treated them any different because there were only two of them. There wasn't grouping and judging. When I moved down south to Virginia, half of my school was black. And there was racism. But that helped me to understand the backgrounds and the stories and differences and to break free from that. But what I'm wondering is, are there any education groups for police officers? Are there any programs to help them to stop being so racist, to educate them to be okay, right?
And so, a short answer to your question is that, well, I mean, so let me just tell you that currently, Portland Police does not want regular community members to help train incoming police officers. We've been asking them to rotate regular community members through the training of new officers, right? The last idiot that was police chief in the city of Portland assumed that he knew best how to train community police officers to serve in our community. What we need is a police chief, and I don't know if the new police chief O'Day is that police chief, but what we need is a police chief that understands for community policing to work, community has to be at the beginning of community policing.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next, comment.
So, my name is Joann Hardesty, and I actually am Alaska native, but I grew up on the Blackfeet Reservation in Montana. And I grew up in a household that did not, my parents did not hug me or say I love you. And my sisters, when they started actually having kids, drew me aside and said, you have to tell you love. You have to hug. You have to actually just be there for them. And so, one of the most significant things for me in this movie was when Ira played the Santa Claus for them. But yeah, I mean, they're all talking about who they played Alvin. I did not realize Alvin was that was recorded, all right? I tell all the people ridiculous. I know how to live off it. But yeah, looking at that, I'm like, oh, those poor children have to grow up there. And I grew up on the red, and you know, I get that. So yeah, my question to you guys is, to what extent are you incorporating things like nutrition for the kids, better health, not healthier, but better head start, better parenting classes for the parents, who probably, you know, they're never parents maybe, because really that's basically where it's going to start, is with just growing these kids up in love and support. And that's where we're going to start. I mean, yeah, we're all adults. We're all ready, either for it or against it. And, yeah, we're all for it, but, yeah, at the point, it has to start with the kids. So,
yeah, it's another thing that when you don't have parental rights to guide your kids, then they take away parental rights to the parent, and so that when they go to school, the schools are teaching them what to teach your kids, because you can't tell your kids what to do at home, because if you do, you're gonna be in trouble as an adult that had birthed this kid.
So true.
Starting at home, but parents don't even want to talk to their kids about issues that they need to talk about, because the system has been designed to tell them that we're gonna take your kids away from you.
Thank you.
You got a felony or you're doing this, and so we're talking about prevention. You know, we're talking about prevention. And these are the things that we need to, yes, definitely it starts at home, and the parent can, you know, get that in their kids' head, but when they walk out of that door, they feel like I'm a failure to my community because I'm an adult and I'm not, they don't respect me. Because kids are not respecting their parents, because the system is not street lights came out, you had to come in the house. You know what I'm saying? You only can watch 2 TV shows a week, you needed to choose which one it was gonna be, and you needed to eat everything on your plate. So when I got rebellious enough to say that, the system was like, oh, this is what your mom is doing? You're gonna take her. You're gonna take her. So that's a little bit of the prevention, and it doesn't have to be everything is not. I'm sorry, but I have to jump in.
I just want to add on to that, like I thought, love and empathy, right? I think that one of the things that we, as the younger generation, and also with the folks of the less young generation, still as beautiful generation, we do recognize ways to navigate like the educational system to implement love practically when it comes to self-love, because I think that that's something that we're not taught. A lot of times by our parents because they weren't taught by their parents, and so there's this lack in we have this continual oppression going on, but we don't have this continual uplifting. And I feel like we don't have this continual ideas of self-love, and so when we don't love ourselves, then we're not going to take care of ourselves. We're not going to take care of people in our communities. And so I think that, and I mean, I'm no scientist, but I know there's books on science that talk about Earth.
Guys, I gotta go.
I know there are books that give factual.
Running out of battery. Good night, you guys. Take it easy. All right. It's unfortunate, but see, we don't look at the issues of where the colored kid came from and where the white man came from. Okay?
Right.
No, we don't look at those. All we do is jump to this. Oh, he's racist because he never once gave that guy a chance. He probably gave that guy thousands of chances. I walk these streets sometimes till 4 in the morning. Okay, and sometimes I've been in positions where the officer came up to me. He's the only one on the street. I'm the only one on the street, and he wants to know, dude, what's going on? Where you going? And I immediately fuck off. It's none of your fucking business.
Am I free to go?
No, I don't say that. I keep on walking. He puts the car in park, turns the things on, and say, come here. And he calls for backup immediately. Okay? And I can understand why he did that. Okay? He's not just gonna, his pride, we all have it. We're all guilty of pride. His pride is not gonna let him accept what I just put him through. Okay? He still has to show he has the upper hand.
Even though constitutionally you have the right to just walk down the street.
Yes, I have the right to walk down the street. Yes.
That is not a probable cause that he needs to intervene on.
No, but a lot of people don't know how to walk up to one another and go like, hey, what's up, bro? How you doing? Right. Is there anything I could do for you?
Okay, now this is where it's going to get tricky. African-American pastors called for the Department of Justice to come investigate Portland police. They did not find racial profiling. They found mental illness.
Right.
And part of the solution is going to be intervening on the lives of people because of their mental state. It's opened a whole new area of policing, right? And it's a whole other diversion from the courts.
Right.
They'll just lock you up in a mental ward, even though there was no crime in the first place.
Right.
So this increases the likelihood that they need to stop you at 4 o'clock in the morning because you must be nuts. How are you out there?
No, maybe
it's going to increase that.
Maybe it's, the guy is only doing it because he's trying to practice his social skills. How to walk up on a colored person or a Latino or Asian without offending them, without having his uniform taught for him. Because that's what people are listening to. They're not listening to the guy in the uniform. They're listening to the uniform. They're looking at the badge. They're looking at the gun and stuff. And they're talking about, what the fuck is this guy walking up on me for?
Right. But it would be the same if I did it, though, right? If I throw my car in the park and make you tell me something. You'd feel that same kind of thing.
No, if you don't have the uniform, and I probably,
I got the same posture. I'm
You say, hey man,
John
what's
Wayne.
going on tonight? Where you headed? You know? I might look and say it's 4 o'clock in the morning and think, why is this guy stopping and talking to me?
Yeah.
Same thing I would think about the cop, you know, but I'll be a lot more hostile to the cop because I believe he would have better things to do than approach me. I'm not doing anything other than walking at 4 in the morning. And if he's bored, there's better approaches to the run.
In court, they'll say that you were walking in a drug-infested area.
Yes, they would.
They will have all kinds of other
I'm
things.
known for having drugs and or doing whatnot. They got to.
Oh, so then they would also say he was a known
associate of this and that because they probably done had past run-ins with me. Now I'm not new to this, okay? And that's where everybody failed to ask those panelists what their experience was. Okay, was your experience you're in prison, you're an ex-con, okay, you grew up in this environment, you're a gang member, X, whatever. That's your experience.
Okay, now, I lived in London for 3 years. My cops weren't armed.
Right.
In order to solve crime, they had to have pre-existing relationships.
Right.
And it frickin' worked.
Right,
Because
yes.
we didn't want our shit ripped off.
Right. Yes.
So it's not, we don't want them to be them. We want them to be us.
Right.
Okay?
Right. It's easier to talk to.
Now there's this whole thing coming out now. It's called the National Initiative for Building Trust and Attorney General Holder's Right. So they don't know what they're doing. You're describing this state that they want to get to.
Right.
Is where building community trust.
Right. With
So
everybody.
Right.
We're
Because
not
that kid
racist.
was talking about empathy and stuff.
Mhm.
So if somebody walks up to me at 4 in the morning, maybe he's in need.
Yes,
Right?
I'm gonna talk to you.
So I'm not
you know?
defensive anymore.
Right.
How are we going to get there?
If we have to put aside, you know, we have to reach into an officer's training, and then an officer is a person when he's on the job. Now, when he's off the job, he goes home. He don't care about that neighborhood because if he did care about that neighborhood, he'll be out there outside of his uniform. He'll be doing the same thing sports players do. Okay, they got the uniform, or outside of the uniform, they go into the communities and sign autographs and do things and make things happen, you know, and they're recognized. And then that cop ain't trying to be recognized. That cop is trying to go to another department, probably vice, undercover, you know, and to put his face out there, and he has to be emotionless, you know. He can't say like, dude, I'm not gonna see you as my next door neighbor. Okay, you know, you're out here, you're selling drugs. You know, I just saw you down the street talking to a 14-year-old. Blah 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 blah. Okay, he's automatically on the defensive when he pulls. And this is what I feel. This is what I believe. I don't stop to think about what this guy's belief on is of black people or what type of experiences he had. He might have got into a wrestling match with somebody and I look like that person, you know, and he probably stopped just to actually see if it was me, and he probably was gonna keep going. But no, I jumped down his throat. Didn't give
Cops
him a
have this
chance.
thing called the behavioral health unit.
Right.
Lieutenant runs it. And I was talking to him about police refusal to go into psych evals after a traumatic incident, whether it's their own divorce or they just shot someone.
Right.
And I started talking about fear.
Right.
And he goes, it's the elephant in the room. Because what you said, he was defensive. Well, that's fear, isn't it? Now, how can a police culture, which prides itself on this courage thing,
right,
if we don't talk about the fear component of that, we're never going to get to the real thing where we're just other people
We're
working.
gonna keep masking it and masking it and masking it, and then we're gonna keep hiring officers right out of the military or young. You know
who you're most likely to get hurt by?
I believe the military and the youth.
A rookie. They have just had the shit scared out of them through all those training videos of black men getting out of cars with guns.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with the real world conditions.
Right.
They are triggered because they want to start a family.
Right.
And you're also liable to repeat offenders. A guy that started out just by beating people. Then he got the taser thing, and then he got a couple of discipline things for stealing a camera with one guy, Humphreys.
Right.
Then he, I forget which was. Oh, he ends up beanbagging a 12-year-old African American child from close range. Right. And it's not a non-lethal weapon; it's a less lethal weapon.
Right.
And so this guy is escalating, and there's no discipline that's effective.
Right.
Every discipline has been reversed, and he got paid all the time that he was off.
So he's building the confidence to even be able to
Yeah, and the rest of
get
the bureau
away.
looks at that, and they call him the $1 million cop because the city's paid out over $1 million in settlement.
Right.
And he's not fired.
Right.
So
Well,
anyway, the fear thing is like, what? I don't know what we're going to talk about first, reparations or police being afraid, because they're both like,
well,
Taboo,
yeah,
completely taboo.
If you know, the first city that reprimands its police department, okay, you know, like you said, $1 million is people are gonna get paid because now other cities are gonna have to follow suit. They're gonna have to clean houses on every police department, and then they're gonna have to come up with how did you say evaluation to be able to evaluate the guy that's up for the next job. That's
I
up
think
for
one
the
thing
job.
that's cool in the film was the chief wouldn't let the name of the shooter loose, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Like
in
they
Albany.
used to have complete control. So we're going from not having to name the shooter to making public his discipline file. So everybody knows this is one of the violent fucking thugs.
Well,
How far away are we from
we
that?
don't want to put the guy, what is that, the witch hunts? We don't, because to put his name out there, we condemn his whole family.
Yeah, but he's a public guy, publicly paid, and those are public records that are created around his performance.
Right.
It's not like he's a guy that's working for his own company. You wouldn't want
Right.
those personnel files released, right?
Right.
But this is, we paid for the computer that we paid for the lady that typed his thing in,
Well,
and we're
as
not
a-
allowed to know it?
Well, okay. But as a voter, you know, a lot of people there's scary things out there. Like those are the masks. And we overlook what you just said. We're not going to give this guy's information out because one of those scary people might go burn that house down. Okay, and I don't want, like, remember them 2 cops that got shot?
Yeah.
In New York.
Don't know their names, but yeah.
I don't know their name either, but
One
I
was
believe
like Asian, right?
Yes.
I believe those cops. Okay, all cops should know the war zone. So when they wake up in the morning in the badge, it's a war zone for them.
Right.
And they should know that the other cops that are bringing that name to their reputation, they should know this.
They're afraid. They don't want to out the other cops. They're afraid they
Right.
won't get backup when they're in a tough situation.
And they're relying on the fact that we are afraid of the uniform. But, you know, that couple, those 2 officers, you know, they should have saw that coming. They should have known that was going to happen. Okay? You're going to get tired. People are going to get tired, and things are going to happen.
I think so, but if you look at the number of vets that are on the downside of health,
right,
housing,
right,
they were trained. I'm surprised it hasn't happened more frequently with, I just can't take it anymore.
Right.
I'm trained.
Right. No, I am surprised because, well, no, I'm not surprised because I believe in humanity. I believe in compassion, and a lot of people want to say that, you know, we send our people to war and then they come back all fucked up. Well, those ones that you just mentioned, they're not messed up because they haven't snapped or
they're not suicide.
Yes, they're right. Okay, and they're thinking logically, but the only problem is that people are pushing them aside. They're looking at them all funny. They went to war and stuff, and how come our country? How come Obama isn't taking care of these guys? Okay, He wants to talk about the active military now. You want to talk about them like they're motherfucking something special. What about the dudes that have
Well, you
already
guys,
been through it?
I had to close this down. I think I'm going to run out of battery.
So,
I'm going to close it down so I can save it. Thanks for watching.
When you were talking
The conversation continues.
cops with behind the back, is we're also increasing